A culture is so closely tied to its language that if you change one, you change the other. Benjamin Lee Whorf stated, in what has become known as the Whorf hypothesis, that language is not simply a way of voicing ideas, but is the very thing which shapes those ideas. An example of this is how one perceives of time. In our modern Western culture, we view time in the sense of the past, present, and future, a fixed and measurable progression of time. Other cultures, such as the Hopi Indians of North America, do not share this same perspective of time. To the Hopis there is what is and what is not yet. Interestingly, the ancient Hebrews had a similar view of time. Like the Hopi language, the ancient Hebrew language does not use past, present, and future tenses for verbs. Instead, they use two tenses, one for a complete action and one for an incomplete action. An individual whose native language is Hopi views time from the Hopi perspective, but if he is required to adopt English, he learns the English perspective of time. During the late 1800s, the United States forced the Native Americans to adopt the English language. When a Hopi no longer functions within his native language, the original cultural perspectives such as time is lost and replaced with the modern Western perspective of time. This same shift in perspectives can be seen in the ancient Hebrew vocabulary. In Numbers 15:38 we read, "Speak to the sons of Israel, and say to them, make tzitzit on the corners of your garments." The Hebrew word tzitzit is a noun derived from the word tzitz. A tzitz is the blossom of a tree which will become the fruit. The tzitzit, then, is a blossom, not in appearance, but in function. The function of the tzitzit is to be a reminder to the wearer to produce fruit, fruit being the observance of the commands as stated in verse 39. And they will see them and remember all the commandments of Yahweh. Therefore, the word tzitzit carries with it a cultural perspective which connects the blossom of a tree with the performance of a commandment. This Hebrew language continued to function as the Jewish people's native language until their removal from the land after the Bar Kokhba revolt in 135 AD, at which time they were dispersed into many different nations. While the Jewish people continued to use the Hebrew language from then until now, it was relegated to their religious lives alone, and the language of the people around them, quite often this was Greek, was adopted as the language for everyday use. At this point, Greek becomes the influential language in their life, and their perspectives of words and ideas are now determined by this dominant language. A tzitzit is now associated with the Greek word kraspedon, which is defined as a decorative fringe or thread, changing their perception of what a tzitzit is. It is no longer a blossom, but simply a decorative fringe. This same shift in perception occurred each time a new language was adopted, whether it was Spanish, German, or English. In 1948, Israel became a Jewish state, and with that, Hebrew once again became the everyday language of the Jewish people. While the language had been resurrected, the original cultural perspective of that language had disappeared long ago, and the Western influence on that language survived. A tzitzit in the mind of modern Orthodox Jews is still a decorative fringe and no longer functionally related to a blossom. This same change can be seen throughout the Hebrew language. For example, the word Torah, which in the original ancient Hebrew language meant a journey, is now in the modern Hebrew a doctrine. A Cohen, in the original language, meant a base of the community. But in the modern Hebrew culture, it is a religious priest. The word kadosh, which originally meant special, now in the modern language means holy.
One of the things that we have to get over, if you will, is our thinking process. Because you and I, most of us at least listen to my voice, I'm assuming, were not raised in a Hebrew culture. And let me also add that a Hebrew culture, a biblical Hebrew culture, is not the same as rabbinical Judaism. It's not the same as the modern Judaism today. I'm going to submit to you that Orthodox Judaism or modern Judaism in Israel today is as Hellenized as many other Western religions are. You know, Greek/Roman culture is the last cultures that conquered the Hebrew people. And God had already warned His people that when you are taken into captivity by these cultures and these nations, do not learn their ways. Do not learn to think like they do and act like they do and look at the world like they do. Because the nations of the world primarily view the Scriptures in many ways the opposite of those who wrote the Scriptures.